Hey everyone, I'm Tim. This is my video blog, How to Build Thriving Teams. Back in 1970, Robert K. Greenleaf wrote an essay called The Servant as Leader. And that first is where the term servant leadership was coined. And from that, Robert Greenleaf has built an entire organization around servant leadership. In the last couple decades, servant leadership has become more and more popular, maybe even a little bit of a trend. There's been lots of books about it, and you can find so much out there around servant leadership. But for a lot of us, and in my experience, I've seen a lot of leaders who kind of project their own ideas, their own biases, and kind of opinions on what servant leadership is and what it really means. And so today, I'd like to kind of dispel some of the myths out there around servant leadership and really hone in on what servant leadership actually looks like. So to do that, we're going to play a little game, a game that we used to play as kids called Two Truths and a Lie. You might remember, like maybe around the campfire or maybe when your friends were sleeping over or something. This is often when we would play this kind of game. Well, Two Truths and a Lie is how we're going to sort of get down to really what servant leadership is today. I'm going to share with you 3 statements. 2 of those statements are true and 1 is a lie. So the first statement is this, that people under servant leaderships tend to grow more as individuals. They become smarter, they become healthier, more autonomous, more skilled. The second statement is that servant leadership naturally creates a more connected and committed team culture. And the third statement is that servant leadership, compared to at least a lot of other theories out there, is a little bit more passive. It's really just, mostly focused on people more so than results. Okay, so those are our 3 statements. So which of those statements are true and which one is false? Let's start with a true statement. People under servant leaders absolutely grow more as individuals. They do become smarter, more autonomous, more skilled, and more healthy. And the reason for that is that because servant leaders invest in their team, they really take time and spend with their team. They're focused on their growth and development, and servant leaders lead by example. They will lead through their teams. They'll do this through effective communication, collaboration, and delegation, which all leads to a further development of the individual. So what's the second truth? It's this, that servant leadership does create more connected and more committed teams. See, traditional leadership tends to be more hierarchical. Think of a pyramid, right? Leadership in the traditional sense is the obtaining of some power or position and then the exercise of that power and position over others, okay? But servant leadership takes that pyramid and turns it upside down. Servant leaders puts the team and the organization before them, and it's through the team that they lead. It's through the team that they work towards the ultimate mission or vision. See, they do put people first, but they put people first, one, because they care and they believe in the value of the individual, but it's for the purpose of getting true engagement, of getting ownership by an entire organization towards an objective. Now, the third statement I gave you, which is obviously the lie, is that servant leadership is comparably more passive than maybe other leadership theories or philosophies. It's just not true. It's totally focused on people, but not at the cost of results. See, it's not one or the other. Servant leaders are absolutely focused on results. See, servant leaders believe in their team and they value their team. They want to see their team grow and develop, not just individually, but they want to see them do that in their life. They want what's best for their team. And what's best for the team is to win, is to achieve results. Servant leaders should have a complete commitment to the results because that is what's going to move the team forward. See, I think a lot of times servant leadership kind of gets billed as kind of a sort of soft, kind of fluffy type of leadership that's really just about like, hey, you're just gonna, kind of bear everyone's burdens, or you're gonna jump in and help, and it makes everybody feel good. But it's so much more than that. And really, it doesn't just belong in volunteer nonprofit settings, it belongs in the corporate setting as well. A great example of this is Frank Blake. You should look him up. He was the former CEO of Home Depot. Now, when he took over, Home Depot was in a bad way. Their former CEO had not really led the company in the direction that the owners originally had intended, and so they brought Frank Blake in, who really practiced and lived out servant leadership. He took the pyramid that was in place and turned it upside down. And because of that, was able to completely turn around that company. The team engagement level grew exponentially. Customer service, which is one of the biggest issues they had improved tremendously. And they started to really generate much more profit and dividends for their shareholders. There's another great example of servant leadership, which I think is kind of summarizes in story form what servant leadership really looks like. There's a movie called We Were Soldiers. It stars Mel Gibson. Maybe you've seen it or heard of it. And what it does is it's about the 1st Battalion of the 7th Cavalry in Vietnam. And it's about a particular battle that this battalion had won somehow, even though they were insanely overwhelmed and all the odds were against them. They managed to still have victory, even with a huge cost that was paid. It's a great story, and the story focuses on Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore, who led that battalion in the battle. And there's this scene where before they're leaving to go to battle, Lieutenant Colonel Moore is addressing his men, and he's telling him that while he cannot promise that he'll be able to bring every man home safely, he promises that he will be the first on the field and the last to leave, and that he'll leave no man behind. And the movie does an amazing job of depicting this, of showing that first step off the helicopter onto the battlefield at the beginning, and then when he's finally leaving the battlefield, he's the last, to get on that chopper, and it's done really beautifully. But the reason I love this so much is not just because it's a great film and it's a true story, but Lieutenant Colonel Moore, I think, really embodies servant leadership. Now, there's a ton out there on Lieutenant Colonel Moore. He's considered one of the greatest battlefield commanders in world history, and there's a lot about his leadership philosophy. But I really want to focus on 3 key things that are a part of his philosophy that he lived out, because I think it does help us summarize and better define what servant leadership really looks like. So those 3 things are this. 1, a belief that everyone on the team is important, that they have value and that they matter and that they can help achieve the mission. The second is that there should be an unflinching, unwavering commitment to winning, to achieving the mission, achieving the goal. And the third is that a servant leader leads by example. They model the behaviors that they want to see in their team. See, that is servant leadership. And I think when you hear those descriptors, you think like, yes, I want to be like that. Or yes, that is what leadership should look like. Now, if you'd like to learn more about servant leadership, or if you have questions or comments, I would love to hear from you. You can connect with me at my website, TimBartlett.me. You can find this blog post, and all the others at TimBartlett.me/blog. And I would encourage you to subscribe so that you get them automatically. If you'd like to reach out to me for help in your leadership, if you would like to talk to me about coaching or consulting for your organization, you can contact me at TimBartlett.me/contact, or you can reach out to me on social media. I have my Facebook page, which is Tim Bartlett Coaching. You can also find me at Twitter and LinkedIn. So until then, let's keep building a thriving team, a team that wins. We'll see you next time.